Hello, I'm Johnny Fluffypunk, and today, together with Gloucestershire Archives, we're going to be looking at something close to all our hearts. Schools. Love it or hate it, school takes up a huge lump of your life when you're young. These days, you are at least comfortable. Your school is brightly lit, it's warm. If it's not, you get a day off. You're all generally fairly healthy. You've got a giant interactive screen at the front of the classroom, and your teacher can bring the whole world into the room with you at the click of a mouse. It wasn't always like that. When I was a child, if I even talked when I wasn't supposed to be talking, I got a board rubber thrown at my head and the teacher dragged me out to the front by my ear. And you definitely don't get that anymore. Gloucestershire Archives is this amazing resource through which you can explore, through genuine old photographs and documents and records, exactly what it used to be like to be in schools all the way across the county, both in towns and cities like Gloucester or Cheltenham, but also out in the little villages too. There are loads of fascinating pictures, and there, in them, you can see the boys and girls who sat in your places 30, 40, 50, maybe even 100 or more years ago, and look into their eyes, look past their clothes, look past their haircuts, and just how different was their experience to yours? They sat at wooden desks. They dipped their pens into inkwells to write. Nobody got picked up by a car, and nobody got their phone confiscated by a teacher. But then again, how many kids today get sent to the headmaster for herding sheep without permission? So, let's have a closer look at some of the things we can find. Some schools today feel pretty modern. Others seem to have been here forever. Some are huge, and some schools are quite tiny. But when you look at the photographs in the archives, you'll see how things start to change. How in the old days, a lot of the little boys had to dress in sailor suits, but by the 1970s, everyone's in colourful tank tops and big hair, and the teachers are all wearing funky glasses and sideburns. Well, the male teachers anyway. And you'll see how classes get bigger and schools get more multicultural, and teachers even learn how to smile. Of course, it's not just photographs in the archives. There's all kinds of old school records. There's reports of school events, registers, punishment lists, reports of illness, all sorts of things. There's records of school fetes and fairs and celebrations. Some things you might be familiar with, like Christmas. Others are kind of lost to the mists of time, some deservedly so. Whitsuntide holidays. What even is Whitsuntide? Empire Day, which began with hoisting and saluting the flag, then a few choruses of God Save the King, and ends with every child on leaving being presented with a bun. Fun times. In the past, the lives of children in the country were far more tied in with the needs of the land and farming than they are today, when loads of it gets done by machinery. So school records in country schools are full of absences on certain days of the week or certain times of the year. Attendance not quite so good today, owing to Cirencester Market. And get this, in the First World War, children were given whole days off to go blackberrying. And that was to make jam for soldiers' rations. And of course, people were off school for less pleasant reasons too. We've all just lived through a year where schools have been shut for a pandemic, And in the archives you'll find plenty of evidence of times when terrible diseases have ravaged their way through schools, in times before we had a national health service, when poor people couldn't afford to pay for doctors and sanitation was poor. Diseases that thankfully have become really, really rare, like whooping cough, or that we've learnt to deal with loads better, like scarlet fever or measles. March the 1st, 1912. More children away with whooping cough. March the 4th. Whole school closed by order of the Sanitary Inspectorate. February the 4th. Only 8 out of 53 children made it in today. Epidemics of whooping cough, scarlet fever and influenza rife amongst the children. And one thing they had 100 years ago that we've got plenty of now is naughty kids. And in the records you'll find loads of punishment reports, lists of misbehaving children, mainly boys for some reason, and their supposed crimes. And what has changed is what they're allowed to do with them. These days you might get told off, you might get told to sit out in the corridor, you might lose a bit of golden time, you might even get your Pokemon cards confiscated. But what you won't do is get this. The cane. 100 years ago, everybody did. Edward Prosser, William Prosser, Wallace Bristow, Percy Watts, Percy Baldwin, Arthur Cox, Percy Niblett, disobedience, 2 strokes. Fred Bolton, disobedience twice and untruthfulness, 4 strokes. William Edgington, made noises in lessons. When asked why, said nothing but just yelled loudly, several strokes on the buttocks. Ernest Hitter and James Hyatt, 1 hour late for school. Why? Sheep driving without parents' consent. 6 strokes on the buttocks, 1 on the hand. And spare a thought for poor old John William Prattley, using disgusting language and throwing mud over the schoolmistresses in the street despite repeated warnings. 4 strokes on the hand and a note. A thoroughly bad boy in every sense, almost hopeless and not fit to associate with other children. And I did find one girl. Violet Herscombe struck a child in the playground. Punishment, a slap on the forearm. It's not fair. So, what you are going to do is you're going to explore the archives, all those great pictures of long gone classes and school events, all those records of comings and goings and sicknesses and crimes and punishments. And then what you're going to do is you are going to write your own. You are going to create a record for your school, and it's going to be packed full of amazing descriptions of fantastic events, some of them real, some of them from the corners of your imagination. And as well as that, I think we'll have a little list of naughty children, terrible crimes and even worse punishments. From the school punishment record. A few excerpts. Jaden Jones. For talking while teacher was talking. Made to gargle Justin Bieber songs through a mouthful of stone cold school dinner gravy. Blech. Jagdev Singh. For running in the corridor. Made to run backwards in slow motion down Kingsholm Road wearing his pants on the outside. Melanie Coelho. For fiddling with her phone. Made to spend hours and 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 hours sitting on hold while the same bit of music plays again and again and all of her friends sit in the sun eating ice cream and waving at her. And there's probably worse. Today we celebrated World Moustached Performance Poets Day. And today we all wore berets as black as a moonless night, and jumpers like Dennis the Menace, and we all held notebooks stained with midnight tears and spilled Vimto. Today we all drank super strong coffee, hot as lava, as instant poetry fuel. Today we all ate alphabeti spaghetti and made clever rhymes across our dinner plates at lunchtime. Today the floor of the school hall was painted to look like a giant crossword puzzle. Teachers chanted clues with voices as deep as bottomless seas. And children stood on the lines, spelling out answers with the first letter of their names. Poor Zachary didn't get to join in. Today, Kylie Harrison wrote a love poem to all of Year 4 and won a prize of a gold-plated dictionary. Today, Miss Smith rhymed boil it with toilet, and we all carried her on our shoulders for 5 laps of the school playground. Today we celebrated World Moustached Performance Poets Day, and when we went home, everyone felt like Shakespeare. So now it's your turn. Enjoy it, and see you soon.